Hello and welcome to this week's Devil in the Detail podcast. I'm Rob Parkinson and I'm here talking all things. So for a Devils joining the show this week, as ever, we've got Paul Whiteside. Paul, how's your week been? Keeping Britain warm?
Yeah, just keeping Britain wet. I think with the hot water and that. We're not doing so much of the eating these days. It's all more hot water. But yeah, busy week up to now. It's middle of the week now. We're recording this Wednesday, so everything's downhill here. But I'm working Saturday, so I'm not quite halfway there yet, or just about halfway there. So yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm looking forward to Cup semi-finals this weekend. I'm hoping to get home on time on Saturday to watch the league game. So yeah, I'm doing all right. How's yourself, buddy?
Yeah, good. Obviously, like you say, no game this week, so managing to do a bit of admin with the old podcast and stuff. You know, things that you don't get around to doing during the week because it's game after game, podcast game, and it's all a bit of a rush sometimes, isn't it? You feel about that sometimes?
Yeah, because I'm always doing my writing and that, and I'm still doing my book, but I only ever get bits. This book's been taking me years, and I'm getting towards the end of it now. But because I have to do them previews and that, I always say I don't get a lot of time to write other stuff really, because the preview and bits and bobs take me all week. So this week I've got no preview to do, so I'm hoping to well, it's Wednesday and I've still not done any of it. So maybe tomorrow or Friday I might get a bit of writing done before I start working on the Catalan preview. So yeah, it does. You tend to like put all your spare time to stuff, don't you? And you don't really get like loads of spare time. It just gets taken away before you know it's weekend again. So yeah, it does. It's nice when there's no game to just have a bit of a rest.
Yeah, but we wouldn't do it if we didn't love it. Would do it? Would we,
No,
Paul?
no.
You know what I mean? That's the thing.
No, love doing it. It's just a bit of a balancing act, finding the time. I tend to do bits and bobs at work between jobs and stuff. I know it's not dead professional, but I tend to just do bits and pieces on my phone and I write a lot of stuff. This sounds rubbish, but I write a lot of stuff in drafts on my emails. Draft it out as an email, save it as a draft, and then when I get home, I'll add a bit to it. But the trick is, when you try and save it as a draft, if you press the wrong button, it deletes it because you've either got to save or delete. You're like, oh, so you've got to be really steady about how you're doing stuff. Because I've done that before, and I've copied and pasted stuff, got to paste it and deleted it.
And I'm like an anti Cinderella. I mean, everything I do is after midnight rather than before. So it's late nights for me. But wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. Would I? And I think it's quite. We enjoy doing this. It's great. We get great content off our guests, don't we? And talking about Salford Devils to you and Parky is the highlight of my week. So long may it continue.
Yeah. Should be another good show. This one as well. We've got plenty going on, haven't we?
Yeah, loads going on. We've got a look back at the league game. The ladies win this week against Castleford. All the big news coming out of the club this week. And then we're going to talk coasters, beer coasters. Paul, and who you think should be the Salford legends on the 12 coasters that are available?
Should it be 13?
I think it's 12.
It should be 13, really, shouldn't it? I saw some of them on, I think it was on Twitter. There's some Wigan ones, and I think Roy got some Salford ones, Roy Ellaby. I think he got some Salford ones. They look really good. They really are sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, sort of original, aren't they? Look like they're advertising a beer brand, don't they? And that, so I thought they were a really good idea. So, yeah, I've had to think about my players. I've not necessarily picked the sort of best players of Salford, but my favourite players, if you like. Yeah. So I was going to do it like that. So I'll give you some names after.
Yeah, the Coaster Store, that's the people who produced them. So hopefully they'll be listening in and taking our choices into consideration when they make the final Coaster selection. So we'll start with the Leigh defeat. So Salford Red Devils were defeated at home to Leigh Leopards. They went down 22 points to 24. Paul, narrow loss. Obviously referee controversies again, but in discipline cost Salford the win.
Yeah, I think you can. There's certainly the Latelli try didn't look like a try. I was in the West Stand and everyone in the South Stand and all the players were going mad. So I said on my report, it looked a bit controversial from what they'd seen, but I had not seen a replay. But I have seen a replay of it now, and it wasn't. It was short. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But I think on a whole, as a game, we had the game sewn up at 22-10. 12 points in front. We should have won the game from there. And yeah, we conceded too many penalties, and it's just soft stuff, really. Can't afford to do that against Leigh because they just keep coming at you, Leigh. And that loose forward there, that Asiata, He's a top player, him, and they've got a lot of pace in the back line as well, and they're not afraid of promoting the ball and moving the ball around. So they took the chances when they had him. So the last try they scored looked a bit forward as well, but I thought it was good play. It was good backing up, so I don't think you can say that. So the contentious try was the Latelli one, but I don't know. And there was also an incident where Lafay and the Burgess one where I think the referee gave 2 knock-ons, didn't he? So presuming he adjudged that Lafay knocked it on. I've not seen the replay of that yet, so you have to go with the referee's call on that. But on the whole, I thought we were probably the better side again, but just not smart enough to win the game. And it's disappointing because you've blown 2 games at home, whereas if we'd won them both, we'd be sitting in the top 3 or 4 in the table. So that's, to me, it feels like we've missed an opportunity.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think, like you say, is it Leigh, the guy in the corner? Latelli.
Who?
Yeah, I
Latelli,
thought that was like an old try. But if you look at where the referee's positioned, he's positioned on the dead ball line. So his view of the incident isn't the greatest. He's looking through players. And I know, obviously, it's better for him to come out the line and have a sort of a much sort of better view, because you've got the in goal judge for behind the line. You've got the linesman on the line. So for him to be stood next to the in goal judge is a waste of a pair of eyes for me.
Yeah. I mean, your touch judge is right there on the play. I mean, could he have not seen it better? I'm not sure. There's people who are saying about having a video referee at every game. I get that as well. That's disappointing, but we know that before the start of the season, don't we? So it's one of those. I mean, for the referee, I mean, it happened so fast. I don't think you can really blame him. I mean, he can only see what he's going. If he's not got a video referee there, what's he supposed to do? He has to make a decision. He can't spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You've got to make that decision, haven't you? So he's made the wrong call. But it's one of those. There's not a lot you can do about it. It's gone now, and even so, we should have still won the game. That probably didn't. Obviously, if you take 6 points off Leigh, we win the game, don't we? But I don't think, in the grand scheme of things, that had such a massive effect, because we got the game by the scruff of the neck, didn't we? And got a try before half time. Andy Ackers, we got a try just after half time from Helliwell, had a 12-point lead, and we was on top there. We was on, and again, Jack Ormonroyd gets involved with something stupid at the play of the ball, starts lashing out, gets penalised, Leigh down the other end, and they scored from that. So again, you've got to be smart. We've got to start playing the game, shutting games down, closing games down when you're leading. Same against Leeds, same against Leigh. You've got to be a bit smarter and just close teams off and shut the door.
Yeah, poor game. It's poor game management for me, really. I remember the Hardacre try, where a bit of a sort of a mistake. Sneed and Briley get themselves in a bit of a mix-up. But if you rewind that 45 seconds, 30 seconds, we're sat on their line. Really, from a kick, trying to pin them in, we get pinned for offside, which gives them a way out, and then they go and score off the back of that. And that's just dumb play for me, really.
Yeah, that try, I saw a replay of that. I don't know what I saw it on. I think, I'll tell you what it was on. It was on Northwest Tonight, on Monday night. Because I said to Ellen, Mrs. Ellen, I said, God, we're never on Northwest Tonight. And they were on now, conceding a try against Leigh. And it was a right comedy of errors. Sneed and who else was it? Briley. But you fall on the ball. They're both messing with it, kicking it and fanning about with it. And then before you know it, Leigh are over. So that was really disappointing to concede that. It's like Laurel and Hardy stuff. So that was a disappointing try of that. But like you said, the penalty count again was massive. I think it was 10-3 in favour of Leigh. It was a big one against us the week before. We're the home side. So you think we'd be getting the penalty. So why are we conceding these penalties? Don't want to call players out, but Danny Addy in that first half, I mean, he gave 2 or 3 away there from stupid, lazy arms in the tackle. You've got to do better than that. You can't afford to just chuck an arm out. It's just shooting yourself in the foot. And Leigh took advantage of that all afternoon long, didn't they? And every time they built momentum and then put pressure on us.
Yeah, just need to touch on the other incidents. The Zach Hardacre potential sin bin, where Lafay runs 80 metres and gets hauled down. If you watch the video back, you hear a voice. I'm thinking it might be the match commissioner taking the advantage away. Right, and then obviously Salford score off the back of it a couple of plays later.
Yeah, they did,
I think if Salford don't score, Hardacre gets put in the bin, but because they do score, then they can't get punished twice, and that's why I think Hardacre survives.
Yeah, I thought that he pulled. Was it Burgess he pulled back or Lafay he pulled back? It was definitely a player who pulled back there, but we scored on the next play, didn't we? So So yeah, that could have been another contentious one, but it's a bit sad, really. I mean, I've seen loads on the internet recently, on socials and all that, about referees, and it is becoming a bit of an obsession with some supporters, isn't it? And we don't want to be talking about that all the time. I thought it was another good game. Yeah, the Latelli one was a bit of a howler, but you've got to see that from the referee's point of view, that he didn't have the technology there, so you can't blame the referee for that. You blame the Super League, the Rugby League, or whatever, because they've not got that technology at all the grounds. I mean, we said it before. I mean, I was saying to my dad the other day, can you imagine Premier League being like that? Oh, we'll just have the 2 televised games on the replay. All the rest of the games, you know that VAR. Can you imagine that VAR? We'll just have it on the 2 games that are on Super Sunday. What? The other teams wouldn't have that. It wouldn't happen in any other sport, would it? But rugby league seems to have this sort of written law that we'll just do it by halves. We'll just have a couple of teams on, but you can't do that because it's got to be a level playing field, hasn't it? Surely. So, but obviously it's not at the moment.
Yeah, and the Burgess one where Laffey gets involved in the tackle and the ball pings out. It is, for me, it's a double knock on. I think Laffey forces the error, but the ball is sort of knocked on into Laffey, and then obviously bounces off Laffey. It's just the rules in it, the way it's a double knock on and scrum down Salford.
I only saw it live in the game, and I didn't see him knock it on, but I've not seen it back. I only saw it at full speed. So if that's the case, he's unlucky there, Laffey, because it was a good bit of play from Salford, and then Burgess ran away. So yeah, I think we were a bit unlucky in that game. I don't think we're a million miles off. I thought for long periods we probably were the better team, and again we've lost on a penalty goal. You know, conceding the penalties at King Bunny, you are there. You've got to be cleverer than that. You can't afford to do that. Ben Reynolds is a good kicker, and he took advantage and won the game for Leigh. And it's a shame, really, because we didn't really have an opportunity in that last 10 minutes to get anywhere near their line. I know Sneedy had that drop goal attempt before that, but unlike him, really, it was nowhere near, was it? So, yeah, I come away from the game disappointed again, really disappointed in losing, because I don't think Leigh are a great team. I think they're a good team. They work hard on that, but I don't think they're championship material. But yet they're second in the table, and when we should have won, I think we should have won the game comfortably. Especially when we got 20 points to 12 up, or 22-10 or whatever it was. We were 2 scores in front, one with 12 points in front there. You've got to go for the throat there and kill the team off.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the effort's there from the players. It's just last couple of weeks, it's obviously just unlucky. Really, bit of indiscipline, bit of fatigue, because obviously we've got a small squad, so kind of catching up on us now. Obviously 5 defeats on the spin. We're in a bit of a hole, sort of physically and mentally. Paul Rowley will come on to that in a minute. He talks about the mental strength for the players, and it's a tough place at the moment playing for Salford.
Yeah, I know. Everyone was saying one the other week about the Wakefield game, and we had key players missing. You had lots of I think Briley was missing, Ackers was missing, Croft was missing, and we'll get them back and we'll be fine. We've got them back, and we've lost 2 games against Leeds and Leigh, so we have got decent players out there. I know the forwards we're missing. Gerrard, Stone was back. Shane Wright's out. Partington was out, so they're missing. But you can say that every week. Teams have always got players missing, haven't they? You're not going to get a team now, this stage of the season, that's got the full strength sort of 21 man out every week, because it takes toll. So it's about how you manage that. So I think we've got to be looking at ourselves and the players and saying, we've got to do better than what we're doing. Particularly in these last 2 home games and the Wakefield game. We shouldn't have been losing there by that many points. It was poor. So we need to get off that bad run we're on and put some wins together, because if we don't, there's a danger we're not going to finish in that top 6, and we're going to wind up finishing right near the bottom of the table, because the teams around us are starting to win now. So there's no excuses. We're in that league, we've got to perform and play well, so we need to get a result.
Yeah, I'll just quickly run through the timeline. Salford up the scoring through Ken Seo. Long pass went to ground. Ken Seo picked the ball up, went over in the corner, does what Ken Seo does. Lovely finish from him.
Yeah, it's a good try. Crossy got a good pass out there, wasn't it, to Seo, and it was a good finish from Seo. And I think he scored 10 tries, 11 tries this season now, so it's another good return for Ken. But it was a good start to the game for us.
Yeah, Leigh hit back with a try from Ed Chamberlain. Looked a little bit forward, but it's borderline, I think.
Well, they both did. Both the tries that Asiata created, the last try for Lamb as well, looked a shade forward. But I called it a line ball, really, to be honest with you. I mean, you're not going to see them pull back. It was poor defence, really. It was well worked from Leigh, and that yeah, as I said, that John Asiata, the loose forward. I thought all the talk was about Lachlan Lamb, but to me, he was the architect behind everything. Everything that Leigh did came off him. He's a quality player, and Leigh have got that in abundance with him and Lamb. They've got some good pivots there. You've got Gareth O'Brien at fullback as well, and they're not a boring team to watch either. They move the ball well and they created a lot of chances.
Yeah, so we've talked about Leigh's next try, which was controversial. Salford scored after that with a try from Ben Helliwell. Little kick through. Helliwell beat the defence to the ball, and it was 10-8 Leigh.
Yeah, it was a good try from Helliwell. I thought he put a good shift in as well, Helliwell. He worked hard. He plays above his weight, makes a lot of ground when he's going forward. He's quick as well. He gets you a quick play of the ball, and that's what you need. I know teams will try and slow us down. We all try and slow each other down, don't we? But when we do get that sort of quick play of the ball and get moving, players like Ben, are good around the ruck to get you going.
And then Mark Sneed kicked a penalty goal to take it to 10 each. And then Salford just on half time, Andy Ackers scored. Lovely work from him, scooting over from dummy half. We could have scored a couple of plays later, unfortunately, but interception by Gaz O'Brien. We recycled the ball and went over to score.
Yeah, it was good play from Ackers. Really good play from dummy half. He was really sharp there, and he had no right to score there, to be honest with you. He went really well, took it round a few players and went over and did what Andy Ackers does best. So it was a good try. It was a perfect time to score, wasn't it? I think it was only a couple of minutes to go to half time there, and then we hit back, obviously, after half time as well. So a bit of a purple patch for us, and that's what we're saying. We should have kicked on there. If you remember the game on the opening day of the season when we played Leigh away, we had a patch in the game there of about 10 or 15 minutes where we scored 2 or 3 tries. It took the game away from Leigh. And I thought that was going to be the story of this game where we'd do that again, but obviously we didn't.
So obviously Leigh were behind. We were winning 22-10 with about 15 minutes to go. And obviously Leigh found a way back in, tries from Lamb and Hardacre, and then a penalty goal late on. And Leigh stole the points. First time they won it against Salford since something like 1983.
September 83, I think it was about 38-4 or something like that. They absolutely smashed us, didn't they, the Willows? So yeah, I knew that stat from a couple of years ago. I remember reading that, and I saw Mike Latham's notebook. So interesting, really. They had some good players in that side in '83. My dad was telling me about that match. He could remember the match, and they had some good players around that time. They just won the championship '81, '82. So they're having their best season since that championship win of over 40 years ago. And it's good to see where they are. I mean, I'm no sort of Leigh supporter, but they've got that cup semi-final coming up this weekend, and I think they won at Wembley a few years ago in the 1895 Cup, didn't they? But they've not played it in the cup final since '71. So I think it'd be great for Leigh to get to Wembley and for the whole town. It's a rugby league town. I work there quite a lot with my job, and it's all rugby league in that area. So I hope they do the business against St Helens and get to Wembley.
So Paul Rowley spoke to me after the game, Paul, and this is what he had to say. So that was Paul Rowley talking to me after the game, Paul, and he talked about mental toughness and how the players are suffering from not having enough of it.
Yeah, it's a tough one, that. I mean, I think it stems down to like game smartness as well, doesn't it? Toughness, being a tougher game out and being mentally smart and mentally prepared to do things. I mean, you go back to that Leeds game last week. I think they were mentally tough, weren't they? You look at the way they played the game. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, they do this, they do that," but they were mentally prepared to do whatever they needed to do to get the 2 points. And sometimes that's how you've got to be. Perhaps we're a bit too nice sometimes. I don't know. We seem to concede too many penalties. Looking at the stats the last couple of weeks, our discipline's been poor. We got tanned in the penalty count against Leeds and against Leigh, and against Wakefield. The last 3 games we've been on the massive end of a big penalty count. So that's something that needs to be addressed, because if you concede in penalties, you concede in possession and you concede in territory. So that's not going to help you. But like Paul Rowley said to you there, I don't think he ever questions the effort of the players. You can't do that. They put a real shift in, but for one reason or another, there was something he said in that interview, and he's what did he say now? He said, I'm sure it was about the mental toughness, and he said you have there's questions you have to ask, and that is about answering them questions, sort of thing. And I can't remember the exact wording that he used, but it was more or less saying sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do in matches, something like along that lines. And I think he meant sort of the tough stuff, the nasty sort of stuff, didn't he? And you've got to tough it out, haven't you? So I think he knows what he wants. He knows what he wants the players to do, and I don't think we're in a massive rut. I think it's like anything. We just need to get a result, don't we? And break this run.
Yeah, talked about the lack of discipline as well, and he didn't want to become a valiant loser mentality, which I think was important, because obviously, if you continue to get beat, it might affect you, doesn't it? But the players seem to be able to keep going to the well over the last few weeks, because, like you say, the effort's still there, still trying to play. It's not like they've sort of like in the sort of a negative mindset where they're not willing to play. It's just unlucky, ill discipline at times, and just look.
Yeah, but there's two sides of the coin on that. You can say that, and which is I totally agree. But if it comes to the end of the season, you keep losing matches and you finish sort of third bottom, fourth bottom, or whatever, and then you say, well, the players were trying and they give loads of effort, but you've not got the results. So yeah, you've still got to get the results, haven't you? So you can try all you want, but there's sometimes you've got to change things and do things differently. And we've not learned. We always say about learning, don't we? But to me, we've not learned our lessons. I don't think, because we've just been in two tough games there against Leeds and Leigh and got the same result, lost by a penalty goal in both games. So you've got to start doing things differently. Otherwise, you're just going to get the same again, aren't you? We've got two fixtures coming up now. Catalan's going to be tough, going there. That's going to be an hard game. That's going to be red hot. We're going to have to, but that could be a win that could catapult us. Look at last season. We went to Catalan. It was boiling hot. They were playing really well. We beat them by 40 points. So perhaps it could be the catalyst. That one win could then kick on for the rest of the season. Jack Ormerod said that to me. He said, we'll win a game and then the wins will start coming. I'll believe it when I see it. It's not that easy sometimes, is it? But you've got to have that attitude. And I think the players have got the right attitude. It's just about, putting it into practice.
Yeah. Look at the stats. Top tacklers: Max Need 25, Jack Ormerod 32, Andy Ackers 34, King V 25, Stam Stone 41, Chris Atkin 40, Adam Sidlow 24, and Ben Helliwell 34.
Yeah, I thought Chris Atkin was tremendous against a big pack as well. Filling in at loose forward. He's not the biggest man in the world. It's not really his position. But I thought Chris Atkin put a massive shift in. I think he did well over an hour before he went off, and then he came back on as well. So Sam Stone as well. It was good to have Sam back in the team. He's a no-nonsense player. He does an awful lot of work. 41 tackles is a pretty good shift from him. He's been out injured and come back there, and we've missed him in the team. Can you imagine if we had him and Shane Wright in the back row? I mean, you're missing Shane Wright massively. And Alex Gerrard was out again, wasn't he? So I presume that's something to do with his knee. He's struggling with his knees at the moment. But no, I thought Sam and Chris Atkin put big shifts in there.
Yeah, top meter makers: Tim Laffey 150, Andy Ackers 117, King V 108, Brodycroft 80, Adam Sidlow 60.
Can't believe Ken Seal's not in there. I thought Ken Seal would be the first name that came off your tongue there, Rob. But Tim Laffey, yeah, again, I thought Tim Laffey played well. He played really well against Leeds, didn't he? Very elusive player, and he'll create chances. And Joe Burgess has probably not scored as many tries recently as we'd have expected him to, really, playing with a winger like Tim Laffey. But I'm sure he'll get his chance. But we need to get that back. We need to get them firing. We need to get Ken Seal and Joe Burgess firing, because we've got two top wingers there. We just need to get them the service and create some chances for them.
Yeah. Average gains: Tim Laffey 15, Jack Ormerod 7, Andy Ackers 9, King V 9, and Adam Sidlow 8. I always think if you get around about 10, you're doing well.
15 for Tim Laffey is some gain there, isn't it? I mean, we mentioned it last week. I think I called him wiry. I won't say that to his face, but he's not a big man, is he? He's not like a Conrad Hurrell sort of centre. He's probably nowhere near as heavy as him, but he's still difficult to stop, isn't he? He's so hard to tackle. He's like a bouncy ball. He just bounces off people, and then he's away from him. He's beat somebody else. He's got round them. So I can imagine that 15 metres there gains is excellent.
Yeah. Big thanks for your 3-word match reports of man of the matches. Colin Wilson: in discipline, our downfall; King, Richard Andrew, ill discipline again. Ben Failer. Jamie Ball, not a try. Andy Ackers. Anita, too many penalties. Ben Wheeler, too many penalties. Ackers. Mike Singleton, cheated by the ref. Ken Yond, absolutely shocking referee, but we've obviously talked about that being human. They will make errors. John McCarthy, penalty try. Andy Ackers. CS, stop blaming the ref. And it's Andy Ackers. I suppose it's right. We've got to look at ourselves in this situation, Paul. You know, like you say, last 2 games we've lost narrow by conceded penalties late on.
Yeah, you can play referee all you want, can't you? I mean, it's not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to change the result. I can never think of a match where a referee has changed his decision because players have had a go at him, supporters have had a go at him. Once he's made that decision, it's good night at the end of the decision been made, hasn't it? So you got to take it on the chin and move on from that. We've said it before. Yeah, the Latelli try was a bit of a dicky one, but you still had a 12-point lead in the game, so you've eroded that lead. You've not kicked on and won the game. So you can find excuses about a referee. I think every team can blame the referee for something, you know, unless you're St. Helens with Chris Kendall. But other than that, I think at the other side, you know, they can find faults, can't they? So you just got to look at the bigger picture, I think, sometimes. And yeah, there are faults there, but sometimes you've got to take that sort of refereeing doubt out of the game and win the game yourself, haven't you?
And, yeah, you know, obviously. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, you can blame referees and that, but if you win the game convincingly, the Latelli try doesn't matter because you've won the game. You've got a 12-point lead. You built on that, so it doesn't make any odds about his try. But I get people's frustrations because it does seem to be a recurring thing, doesn't it? Every week there's something where you think, blimey, they should have spotted that, really. I mean, is there any point in having these video referees? What's the point in having them? We might as well not have them at all now and just strap it and just go back to how it used to be. So
I suppose there's too much money involved in it to have human error. I think we need to go the other way. I think we need more. But like we talked about last week, Paul, with how does that get funded to have a video referee every game and have a big screen at every game and multiple referees and multiple cameramen and in-line judges? It all costs money, doesn't it? So it's how the RFL managed to fund that is the big question for me.
Yeah, but I think if you go back like 30 odd years, 30 years ago, when we started watching the sport, I mean, you had 2 touch judges and a referee. You didn't have in-goal judges then. You didn't have video referees then. And did we spend all our time like going on about the referee saying, oh, it's terrible. But I suppose we didn't have as many camera angles then and replays and stuff like that. I mean, that Latelli try, nobody would have known because you'd have been like, well, I'm sure he didn't get it down, you're in the pub, but there's no replays to check it out anyway. So I suppose there is that. I mean, you've got a lot more technology now, whereas you go back to the 70s, there's probably you could probably rewrite if you had a big screen, you could probably rewrite the history books because there's probably loads of tries that were never tries in the first place, but because you didn't have anything there to check them, it was just, it happened and it was in the paper and that's it. You know, jobs are good. But I don't know what the answer is, Rob. I really don't. But I get a lot of people have said this season that the referees are worse than ever. I mean, I don't know. I don't always follow. I'm too busy watching the match sometimes. I don't follow everything that they come up with or every sort of set restart they come up with. But there must be something in it, the way people are going on about it.
Obviously, must hurt getting beat as well, and I think sometimes it's just easier to point at the referee than your own sort of problems. But everyone has their own opinions, don't we? That's what rugby league is. Let's move on to the ladies. They were in action against Castleford in the first game of the day on Sunday and beat them 22 points to 10. Good result for Chris Bates' ladies inside the stadium in front of a decent crowd.
Yeah, I mean, how good was it to play inside the stadium, Rob? I mean, it's a nice facility outside on that little pitch. You know, it's a good standard there. It's just a good facility. But to get them playing inside the stadium was a curtain raiser. I think it was pretty special. There's a big crowd there again as well. You know, we got almost 7,000 again. So I think in 3 home games there, we've got, I think somebody said it was over 20,000 in the 3 home games, which is a tremendous effort, I think. And the ladies have added to that. They've added to the atmosphere. It was a good game as well. And, you know, you'll be able to tell us about some of them tries. I mean, you were telling me and Parker in the WhatsApp group about some of the scores that they scored. It was a good performance and some good entertainment, I believe.
Yeah, Yes, Sage Bannister opened the scoring for Salford. The fullback got the ball off Demi Jones, stepped inside one defender, went round another one, and raced over from 40 metres. Wonderful steps, great feet to get over the line to make it 4-0 to Salford. Then scored another one, this time from 70 metres, burst the Castleford defence wide open, raced over centimetres. A couple of weeks ago, she did exactly the same against Featherstone. So my confidence must be so high after scoring, such a, 3 amazing tries in such a quick time.
Yeah, and getting a reputation for it now as well. We're expecting these scores now, aren't we? How important do you think that win was against Castleford? Because there've been a few defeats. Sometimes you just need to get that result. I mean, I spoke to Louise Fellingham. I think it was the Leeds game. I spoke to her, and I think you did an interview, didn't you, as well, or whatever? And she was frustrated about where things were going. They were putting an awful lot of effort in, and not a bit like the men's team, putting an awful lot of effort in and not getting the reward. So it's frustrating. But once you do get that win, your confidence goes through the roof.
Yeah, I think what it is, it's because you're playing at a higher level. It's about staying in intensity at Super League level. And I thought against Castleford that the ladies were tremendous. I thought the forwards were just sort of rolling on, really sort of big runs, big powerful tackles, dominant throughout, and that's what you want. If your forwards are going forward, it allows your backs, the likes of Louise Fellingham and Demi Jones, to feed the likes of Steph Gray and Alex Simpson, and make things happen for the likes of Sage Bannister. And we've got some strike out wide. We talked about that lots, but it's all in the forwards. If your forwards are making meters and being aggressive in defence, they opposition turn the ball over in decent field position, and then you can do damage then.
I think it's the same in both the men's and the women's rugby league and amateur rugby league, you name it, whatever standard you want to talk about, whether it's pub rugby league or Super League or State of Origin. If you've not got a pack, you ain't going to win the game. You can have all the flair in the backs in the world, but you need that pack to lay you that platform to allow you to play. I've heard people say it in the territories, why don't we move the ball? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? You can only do that once you've earned the right to. You've got to earn the right by a dominant pack, and then when you've not got the ball, that your pack has got to defend as well. Your team's got to defend. You've got to muscle up. You've got to stop the side, breaking you down. So, yeah, every decent side or every champion side or every international side that's ever won things has been built on a pack with, a very solid pack, with cornerstones in it.
Yeah. Casper didn't lie down though. Second row, I think it was Courtney Evans burst the Salford line. Steph Gray did a wonderful sort of tracking back tackle to stop her. Another break from the other second row, I think it was Amy Boardman, came up and Sage Bannister tackled her, but unfortunately, after the next couple, I think it was the next tackle, they went over. Smith, a little grub kick through, dived on the ball, and it was backs being close then. Which is, I suppose in rugby league and especially at Super League level, you do get the odd blowout scoreline, but mostly it's always nip and tuck.
Yeah, it usually is, isn't it? And that game was, it's been a big step up for the ladies, as we said before, haven't we, in the standard, but I think they've stayed in games. They've not been like blown away this season, really. They've stayed in games, they've worked hard. Yeah, they've come up short a few times, but the effort and the anxiety, the desire has been there, for all to see. And that came off, and it must have been a great feeling in that change room at the end of the game to finally get 2 points and propel them up the table as well, because it's a tight league that they're in at the moment. That group that they're in is a very, very tight one, and there's some big games coming up towards the end of the season.
Yeah, next Salford try was from Yasmin Parton Sotomayor. Paul, basically, Salford were on there, sort of 25. She got the ball and she basically ran through 6 Castleford defenders and just plonked the ball over the line. Too big, too strong, too powerful for that Castleford defence. And we went into half time 14-4 up.
Just what you need as well, isn't it? Try right on half time. It sort of puts those seeds of doubt in the Castleford players' minds as well. And it's 14-4. You've got a 10-point advantage, 2-score lead. It's that's a big blow for Castleford to take into the break.
Yeah. And then the second half, we carried on with the momentum. Steph Gray went over in the corner. Lovely work. I think it was from Louise Fellingham. And she went over in the corner to make it 18-4. And then it was like the Alamo. Then we had big chances. Louise Fellingham nearly went over in the corner. Sage Bannister nearly scored again. Forwards were rolling forward. Megan Cunliffe, Abby Collins, Hannah Wicks, all sort of making big meters and causing chaos in that Castleford defence.
Don't know how you remember all this stuff, Rob. You must have watched that game a couple of times. You just read it off.
I've watched.
I remember it.
Yeah.
It sounded a fantastic second half. That, it really did. The effort they were putting in there, the meters they were making, and completely dominant as well. And it's good when a game plan comes off, isn't it? And all your hard work comes off. And there'll be weeks like we've said about the men's team. Last couple of weeks, it's been a great effort. But how frustrating is it when you don't get the result? But it was good to see them get the result and back up in the second half. The good work that they've done in the first half.
Yeah, Iolfe McKenna was very impressive as well. She came on from the bench in the second half and tore straight into Castleford. It was great to see. So Salford then scored. Alex Simpson went over in the corner with about 6 Castleford defenders on top of her to make it 22-4. Cass scored with about 10 minutes to go. And from then it was just a bit sort of 50-50 both sides, trying to get, a bit of possession, a bit of territory. But we'd done all the hard work and we got the win, which was the important thing after last 2 defeats.
Certainly is, yeah, just to get that win and that bit of momentum and lift the spirits as well. As I said before, you're putting a lot of effort in and coming up short. You've moved up the leagues in a higher level now, so getting used to that standard. I think this season's it's becoming a real learning curve, isn't it, for the Leigh? But I think they're doing really well. They're holding their own in that league. They're not being blown away. They're not being left at the bottom. There's some big scores sometimes in ladies rugby league. I mean, I've seen some of them Super League scores, a lot of nil-ins and a lot of hammerings, but I think we're staying in matches this season and doing really well.
Yeah, I think like we always say, it's a learning curve in it, and I think the players that have come through sort of last season playing in the championship, they're playing at another level, aren't they now? And the likes of Megan Cunliffe, I thought that was the best game I've seen this season. Outstanding performance from her, and it's a kind of a stepping stone now. With I think we're 3rd in the league. I think the game we're looking at, I think Leigh and I think Featherstone are the top 2, so we'll have to keep winning to stay in touch with them.
Yeah, that's it. But I think players are learning all the time, aren't they? And learning on the job as well. I think Parky made a good point last week that we only formed last season. So, it does take a while for players to get used to the levels. And we formed last season and got promoted. So, sometimes it can take you just a bit more time to get used to playing at that intensity, at that level. A lot of these ladies have been together for, a number of years. So, they know how each other play. So, you're learning all the time. It's not as if you played like a load of pre-season games. You've got to learn on the job in the league games, haven't you, as you go forward. So, I think they're making great progress, but great strides. And it's going to take a long time to be an established sort of team in the top group. Some of the top teams like the Saints and Leeds and that. But you're on the right path, aren't we? And we're doing good things.
Yeah. So that's our look back at the matches this week, and now we'll see what's happening in the world of Salford Red Devils. So we'll start, Paul, with the news that the St Helens game is a celebration of our 150th year. Big party planned, live music, lots of activities, ex-players coming down, big crowds in the last couple of weeks at home, hoping for another one.
Yeah, it's another Sunday game as well, isn't it? So it should be a great atmosphere for that. Ex-players coming down and loads of things going on. And, St Helens in town as well. They should bring a decent following, shouldn't they? It's not too far for them. And, yeah, let's hope we can get another, 7,000 plus crowd. It'd be great to get an 8,000 for that game. I mean, we've really got to publicise this now. And, getting some legends down who played for the club in the past, you're going to get to see them, I would have thought, if they parade them around the pitch, which they should do, which I hope they do. And I think it just add to the atmosphere, won't it? And that'll stoke the crowd up before the game. Get an ex-player or an ex-champion bringing the match ball out. How good would that be? So yeah, we'll have to watch this space, see what happens. But if anything's to go by, the atmosphere of the Leeds game and the league game last couple of weeks, I think they've been tremendous. I mean, we had the hospice takeover at the weekend, and there was loads of people sat in front of me in the West End who worked for the hospice and who just come for, it was their first time at the game and what have you. And they're really enjoying it. The people, it was packed out in that West Stand where I was, so it's been a great atmosphere. I've seen a lot of faces this season of people who I don't really know, who I don't think have been before, but everybody seems to be enjoying themselves. And all right, we've lost the last 2 years, but they've been great atmospheres.
I think the name of the game really is to get them people back.
Yeah.
And trying to entice them in. I think it comes responsibility of the club to promote them the offers, responsibility for us fans to talk to friends and family who might not go every week to say, come down and enjoy the day. It's not just about rugby matches, everything involved around it too. And hopefully we can keep, attracting these crowds and going 6, 7, 8,000, which is what we want. We want to be able to, entice a big crowd in, which will help put some money in the purse and then eventually buy some new players.
Yeah, and what it's also doing as well is, we marketing ourselves as a community club, and if you're working with the community, I mean, the hospice there that we had at the game at the weekend, for example, I mean, I don't want to be like, what's the word I'm looking for? Don't want to be too downbeat. I know hospices aren't the nicest places in the world, are they? I mean, they probably are nice places, but you know what I mean? People are in there very poorly, aren't they? So I don't want to be too downbeat about it, but I think working with those sort of places, they play a massive part in our community, don't they? Looking after people who are poorly and elderly people and whatever have you. So if we're building bridges with them and getting those people to come to the matches, the people that work there and what have you, and then we can work with other people in the community as well, the hospitals, the schools, you name it. They're all going to be on our side, aren't they? And I'm pretty sure that coming to Salford's an escape for a lot of people, isn't it? I mean, for some of us, it's not. It's a bit of a penance, isn't it? But we enjoy it, and I've enjoyed seeing people there having a good time and that, and they will come back. I think they will. They've been good events, and I think that's what the club are trying to do. They're trying to make it an event and make each game like a theme, aren't they? So we had the Armed Forces Day, which was a tremendous day, wasn't it? Everybody enjoyed that, and you just think about the atmosphere at that. It was the whole day was a great day, wasn't it? Everyone had a smile on their face, and it was really, really good. So I think the St Helens game will be the same. And we've got some more home games coming up this season as well. I think we've got Warrington to play as well down at Salford. So that's another local derby. Should be another one where you're looking for 7,000. So let's see if we can get 7,000 or 8,000 for these home games.
Yeah, talk about home games. The Wakefield game at home is now a Friday night on the 25th of August. I suppose that time of the year it could be a big moment for Wakefield. See if they can survive or not. So I suppose we're probably maybe on telly.
I presume that's for the television. Yeah, it's probably tough for Wakefield, really, isn't it? On a Friday night, it's a bit, well, we played them at their place on a Friday night, didn't we? It make more sense to go somewhere like that on a Sunday. I mean, same for their supporters coming down the M62. It's a difficult journey on a Friday night. So, but it is what it is, I suppose, isn't it? You've got to do what you're told, haven't you? I don't think you have much of a choice, do you? Now with Sky, they seem to hold all the cards, don't they? So yeah, it's disappointing it's not a Sunday, but there's a bit of notice there for us to sort it out.
Yeah, Lance Todd Trophy Dinner. Tickets are still available in August. Always a good night there. Challenge Cup, all the old players, and a really exciting night if you want to get down.
Yeah, and we don't really know who's going to be in that final yet, do we? It could be an ex-Salford player winning it again. There's a few still playing in the cup, I suppose, at the various teams. So yeah, it should be a good night. I've been to two. And the ones I went to, the Marriott in Worcester, I know it's a new venue this time, but the venue will be good, and they always have a good comedian on, and it's just great seeing past winners there and people who are like royalty of the sport, really. So you get to rub shoulders with them, and it's always a really, really enjoyable night.
Yeah. Other bits of news: Stuart Wilkinson was kind of running a low tackle clinic. I'm going to call it a clinic with these new rules coming in where you've got to tackle the middle of the armpit. I suppose he's trying to coach coaches and coach players on how to deal with the changes.
When's this rule actually going to come in? Is it next season, or we're going to see something? Are we going to see something come in?
Yeah, I think they're trying it this year. They're going to see how it goes, and then probably next year after, maybe, depending on if they do decide to bring it in. But by all accounts, all the trial games that they've had, they've been like penalty-a-thons. There've been about 60 penalties in a game, which is crazy. But which I understand, because with tackling, it's just about instinct, and players just throw themselves at players, don't they? Don't even think about where they are. So I do understand why people would get penalised hitting, shoulder high.
Well, that's why you've got to have these tackling sort of clinics, as you say, because it's going to take a long time to get the mindset out of tackling off instinct, like you said there, because it is when someone's running at you, or there's a breaking play, or someone sidesteps you, your instinct is to do something with your body to stop their body moving. So you don't always think about where you're putting your hands, do you? You just automatically put your hand out. It's like any sort of sportsman, where it's sort of boxing, football. A lot of it's on instinct, isn't it? What you throw or what you do to counteract what your opposition's doing. So to sort of combat that, I think you're looking at, you look at rugby league. Most of the players that play in Salford's team now or in Super League at the clubs, when did they start playing rugby league? Probably when they were 5 or 6 years of age, playing junior rugby league, then amateur rugby league. So they've, since being that sort of 5 foot high or whatever, they've always played the game that way. So, most players are now sort of in the 20s. They've been playing the game 20 years, 15, 20 years. How long is it going to take you to change the way you play? It's not just going to happen overnight, is it? You have to go to a few of these clinics to sort it out. But like you said, I think there's going to be a lot of penalties if they're going to do that, because it'd just be ridiculous.
Obviously, with all our indiscipline, we might need to send a few to a clinic to sort their tackling techniques out.
Yeah, we're not naming any names. We named a few before, but we don't name and shame them on the show. They know who they are.
Other bits of news, Paul. Nathan Connell and George Channock were selected to play for Ireland students in the Four Nations last week. They finished runners-up in the competition, so congratulations to both there. Great experience to bring forward in the careers.
Yeah, certainly a great experience and a great achievement as well. To play international rugby league and whatever is no mean feat, is it? So especially that early on in their careers, it'll do them a world of good. Getting that experience and yeah, well done.
Yeah. Final bit of news: one of our ladies, Darcy Price, has been selected to play for Jamaica in September. Jamaica are due to play Canada and USA South in Jamaica. And she set up a GoFundMe page to help try and get her there. I think she's a tremendous player, one of the stars of last season with a really powerful runs, and obviously now Jamaican international.
Wow, getting selected to play international rugby league, I think, is the pinnacle of anybody's career, isn't it? So, and especially to be able to go and play in Jamaica as well. I mean, how exciting is that going to be? So yeah, wish her all the best there with that, and I'm sure she'll be fine. I'm sure she'll get plenty of people helping her out, and then she'll be on the big white bird going over to Jamaica to play. I mean, how exciting does that sound? I mean, international rugby league, as I said before, is the pinnacle of anyone's career. So she's done tremendously well there, and good luck. We'll be keeping our eyes peeled to see how she goes.
Yeah, we'll stick the GoFundMe page on our socials, so jump on it, give us some juice, and let's get Darcy to Jamaica. So that's all the news, and now we're going to talk beer coasters, Paul. The coaster store have obviously produced coasters for about 4 other rugby teams. I think it was Wigan, they're legends, and on Twitter it came up that they may possibly think about doing one for Salford. So on Twitter, I put out an idea of Salford players that should be put on a coaster. Very exciting times. I think if you make yourself, if you get put on a coaster, does that mean you've made it in life?
Yeah, I've got some coasters. My dad's got some, I think. I've got some for you actually. Have I not given them yet? Have I then Legends one? There's some other in me. I'll bring them to the next match. There's some on that. But my dad's got some from the grand final team. I think it's Leigh Mossop's on them, and Niall Levels and 1 or 2 of the other players. And they're really good sort of things to keep, aren't they? Really. But yeah, I think if you get yourself on a coaster, you're a club legend then, aren't you? You're part of the fabric of the club. So I think it's a really good idea. I saw some Wigan ones on Twitter, and I know Roy Ellaby had ordered some as well. I think he's got himself some Salford ones. Roy likes his Salford memorabilia and nostalgia that he does. So yeah, they look really smart. They look really authentic and good.
Yeah. So the coaster store are the people who make it. Like I said before, I decided that we'd pick 2 players from each decade, going from the 70s backwards, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010s, and 2020s, who should appear on these coasters. So, do you want to start with yours first?
We're not doing 60s, just 70s.
Oh, yeah, well, 60s. We'll do 60s first. 1960s.
Oh,
who do you think should be on the coaster? 1960s and backwards.
So 60s and then 70s.
Well, we'll go 60s and before, and then we'll go 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s.
Two players from the 60s and before. Oh, you probably got to go Gus Risman. I think Gus Risman's got to go on one. If it's just players, well, you probably got Lance Todd as well as a manager, wouldn't you? Barney Hudson as well from the 30s. I think he was a bit of a legend in that 30s team. So you got 60s players and all, haven't you? People like Jackie Brennan and Chris Eskers you could have, couldn't you? 60s. He was playing in 60s, wasn't it? Cup final. There's loads, and you wouldn't do him justice, really, would you? But 70s team, I think you got a Colin Dixon. I think for my sort of family, my dad as well, he's a big fan of Colin, and he's a player I've heard a lot about over the years. And Mike Koeman, I think I'd have to go. It's a tough one, that, because there's Paul Charlton, Fielding, Richards, all players that I've heard about, and I've met a few of them as well. Had the been able to meet him and say hello to him. But I think I'd have to go Mike Koeman, because Mike sort of touched my family really, and my dad got to meet him and that, and became really good friends with him. So, and with Mike passing away this year, I think that'd mean a lot having Mike on one, because he was a blooming good bloke, Mike. So that's my 70s. 80s, I'd have to say Tex Evans.
Yeah.
The 80s, because without Tex, I don't think I'd be watching rugby league now. He's the man that I first saw in a Salford shirt and thought, I like this. Who else? 80s. I'd probably go either Gibbo or Adrian Adley. I'd probably go for Gibbo, because Gibbo's another guy that is like, wow, he was just an hero to watch, with his hat on and his curly hair, and he's just didn't even look like a rugby league player, but was an absolute hero for Salford. So I'll go with him. For my 90s, I've got to go Steve Blakely, because he's probably one of my favourite players of all time. I was going to say Watto as well, because I used to like when Watto first came into the team. I know not a lot of people probably knew much about him, because he's in the academy and that, but I really liked him when he had that partnership with Blakely midway through the 90s. But I'm probably going to go a bit left field. I'm going to go John Cartwright, because I like John. I know he didn't play, he only played sort of a season, but he's a big favourite of mine. There's Peter Edwards, people like that I could mention, Darren Rogers, Fatasini, Nathan McAvoy, Scott Naylor. There's loads, isn't there? Sam Panaper. But I like John, so I'm going to go with him.
Okay, so 2000s.
I'm going to say the Skull, Jason Nicol.
Jason
but
Nicol?
I'm not having him. No, I'm not having him. I'm going to go, because he wasn't that good, was he?
He looked good.
He was all right. He didn't play long enough for me. 2000s, I'd probably say Malcolm Alker in the 2000s, because I think Malcolm gave an awful lot to Salford, blood, sweat and tears for the club. And Stuart Littler, I think, just for his longevity and the amount of games that he played, and the fact that he always got the better of whoever he played against. Smashing fella as well. So that's my 2000s lads.
And 2010s?
Blimey. I can't remember anything from 2010s. It always seems like one season. So basically, we're talking about our time at the sort of leaving the Willows and going to the new ground now, aren't we?
So you got like Paliacina, you've got Godwin.
Could you pick two good ones there? Let me think.
While you're thinking, I'll just run through mine.
Go
on. I'm going to go with I'm going to go David Watkins or Chris Hessus in the 70s. Jimmy Lomas before then. So I think he was like a sort of superstar. If it wasn't for Gus Risman and Lance Todd, he'd be sort of more known for me. I'm not a massive 80s child, but I've gone Adrian Hadley and Ian Blease. 90s, I've agreed with you with Steve Blakely, Andy Gregory as a coach rather than as a player. I'd have to have a picture of him with his arms folded in a suit on that beer mat. 2000s, I've gone for Paul Lighton and Mal Alker. 2010s, I've gone Jackson Hastings and Ian Watson as coach. Obviously, a lot of people upset about the way Ian Watson left us, but in his time at the club, he got us to a grand final, got us to a Challenge Cup final, he got us through the £1 Million Miracle. And if you're going to have likes of Lance Todd in there for getting us to a Wembley final, I think you've got to have him in there as well. And then in the 2020s, I've got Brodie Croft and I've got Louise Fellingham. Bit of a sort of a right field one there, but first ladies captain to win a trophy for us, first ladies captain to get us promoted, and the first ladies captain to captain us in Super League. If she isn't on the beer mat, are we doing this even right?
Yeah, no, I'll go with that one. I'll second you on that one with Louise Fellingham because she's a nice lady as well, and I think she's a good captain, good leader, and a good person. So, well, I'll go with that one for the 20s. For me, 2010s, I'm going to go Niall Evans and Chris Wellham.
Okay.
I think Niall is just a terrific player for Salford. He played a lot of games, played a lot of years, and Chris Wellham. I remember when we signed Chris, a lot of people said, "Oh, he's crap him. Why have we signed him? He's from the such a league and that." And I remember me and Oskison put a couple of comments on Facebook, not knowing anything. And Chris's wife, Paris, actually sort of said, "Oh, thanks," and then she became sort of friends with us on Facebook. I still talk to her now. That's just for saying I thought he was a good player. So, yeah, he's a player that I took to my heart, Chris. I really liked him. I thought he was a wholehearted player and a nice lad as well. So I'll have them too. For me, 2020s, we've only had 3 years, haven't we, really? But let's have a think now. Who's made an impact in the last couple of years?
Well, I think you've got to think, you can't look past Brodie Croft, any man of steel.
Yeah, you probably go, yeah, I'd agree with you there. I'd go Brodie Croft, and I'd also go Chris Atkin. Because I think Chris has been tremendous. I think not only as a player but as a person, and when you speak to him, we have the privilege of speaking to him, don't we, after the matches, and he's a lovely bloke, and I think he's got a really good attitude as well. So I go with him. But I think Louise Fellingham as well is definitely up there.
Mm-hmm. Parker, who isn't here tonight, said 60s is Brennan. He said 70s take your pick, anybody. 80s was Evans, Gibbo, Blees and Burgess, Andy Burgess. 90s was Blakely and Young.
David Young.
Young. Yeah. 2000s was Stuart Littler and Mal Alker. 2010s was Rucho, Buddha or Wilshire. Rucho and Buddha I can get behind, but Wilshire, not 100% behind that one because I didn't really rate him.
He kicked that goal though, didn't he, against Celtic Crusaders?
He was a player that I always wanted a bit more of. But
he's a very talented player, John Wilshire. Very talented player, but did we see the best of? Was he in a great side though at Salford? I don't know. We were a bit hit and miss at that time when we got relegated and we was in the lower league and that. I mean, Rutcho's a good one. Sean Rutgerson was a good player. Kevin McGuinness, I never really rated Kevin McGuinness. I'm not going to be awful to him because he's probably a great bloke, but I always thought he's a bit hit and miss, really. I didn't think he was a dead consistent player. It's like, I think there's been players like that over the years where I think Michael Hancock was another one where people said, "Oh, this great player who played for Australia."
Yeah.
I never really got him. I always thought he was overrated and didn't put his tripe out, really. And then we had players like David Hume that come to us at the end of their career that I thought was a great player for us. So sometimes the bigger names aren't always all that, are they? No,
Luke Patton for me, the same as that. Everyone was talking about him being the greatest Australian fullback we've ever seen, and I was a bit like, what?
So. Yeah, I remember when we signed him. My dad watches a lot of NRL. He's a massive fan of the NRL, and he was watching. It was a game on Saturday morning, and Canterbury Bankstown were on, Canterbury Bulldogs, whatever they're called now. And he was his last game, Patton, and he did like this general salute to the players, and it looked really cool. My dad went, "We've signed him for next season." Like, wow, he's a star. And then he came over, and I thought his second season he was better than his first season. I thought he had a better season. I actually met him at the Leigh game. I had my picture took with him. We played at Leigh against Wakefield, didn't we? When our game at the AJ Bell got moved, we played our last game of the season at Wakefield and spoke to him at the end of the game. He seemed a nice fella, but I agree with you. I think I expected more from him. I think I expected him to be a bit like Gary Jack when Gary Jack came, and for one thing or another, I mean, it didn't really work out, did it?
No. maddest thing was his first game, I think, in front of the shed. He caught the ball on the full, sort of shimmied and went sailing through a gap, and I thought, whoa, if Simon here never did it again for 18 months. I was a bit like,
yeah.
But it was what it was.
Well, another player you can think of from that time I was a big fan of was Ray Cashmere. I mean, he was a really good player, wasn't he? And probably thinking back now, we could have done with hanging on to him for another season. You know, I think he played his last. I'm sure his last game was against Catalan at the Willow. Did he go to the new stadium? I don't think he did he?
No.
He finished at the Willows, didn't he, in that game? So I would have moved heaven and earth to keep hold of him because I think he'd have been a top player to keep hold. He had a few injuries, didn't he, in the second season? But I like Ray Cashmere, good character as well.
Yeah. The 20th, Parky went Jackson Hastings and Leigh Mossop. Obviously, Leigh Mossop, you know, scoring that try against Wigan, fearless leader. Well worth a possible coaster.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know what? It's really difficult. It's like when people say, "Can you name your all-time 13?" You could name loads, couldn't you? And like I found it hard. I could name it sort of 12 tomorrow, and they'd be different. And then you'd name 12 at the weekend, and they'd be different again because there's so many players players will come and go, won't they? But there'll be some players who will leave a mark on you, and other players who you get disappointed with, and other players that you love. It's just, I suppose it's all about the time and how things happen at the time, isn't it? But there's players that have come over the years, particularly. I mean, Tex Evans. You look at Tex. I mean, I said before he's one of the reasons why I started watching rugby. He's more for his character. Wasn't a great player, really. I mean, he's got some good tries in that, but he dropped a lot of balls, didn't he? I mean, how many times he dropped the kickoff in big games as well? So you didn't really like him because he was a Great Britain international. You liked him because he was a trier, and you know he put his all in for the club, and he was a character. And I think Salford supporters will like that. You know, we won't sort of say, "Oh, sign him because he's Australia's number 9." No, sign him because he's a good bloke and he'll work hard for you. And I think we appreciate that.
Peter Edwards, he was a good player. He came in New Zealand 7, 9.
Fullback. He came as a fullback and he ended up playing number 9. And I think if you spoke to Malcolm Alker, he'd probably tell you that he learned a lot from Peter Edwards. I think I've read before that Malcolm, he took him under his wing and really showed him a lot of tricks and that because he was a tough player, Peter Edwards. Good. I mean, you think back to that 96 season against Keighley, he sort of dragged us through that along with some other players and we got the better of them and got promoted.
Yeah. Fatsini, Scott Naylor, McAvoy. All good. Good players. Yeah.
You could name all that 90s team, Darren Rodgers and people like that. Craig Randall, another player.
Yeah.
He's on my Facebook and seems a lovely fella as well. And I think he listens to a podcast, Craig, so over in Australia. So there's loads of players from throughout the decades. I mean, why not make 100 beer mats with them all on? Because there's loads of characters. I mean, we've not spoke about the book, have we, yet? The 150-year book, what Graham Morris has done. And I think if you was to purchase that, you can just have a look back and flick through it and you'll see the amount of players that we've had over the years and people you think, oh, blimey, I remember him. Or you don't always remember people, you forget people, and there'll be players that have only come and played sort of half a dozen games. I mean, look at Jim Mills. I mean, he played for Salford. Only played about 6 or 7 matches for us, but there's been that many players who played for us over the years. You forget.
Big thanks for our listeners who gave us their list. Paul Howe, 80s, Steve Gibson and Gary Jack. 90s, Paul Forber and Spatasini. 2000s, one we haven't mentioned is Alan Hunt, the rugby genius. We've not mentioned him, I don't know. Stuart Littler. Jackson Hastings 2010s, Gaz O'Brien 2010s, and 2020s Brodie Croft and Tim Laffey.
Well, look, there's a name there you just mentioned that we've not mentioned, Gareth O'Brien. I mean, it just shows you there how much this club has done since 2016. Because how have we not mentioned him?
Yeah,
because he dropped that goal, but it just shows you how much has gone on since then. That we've had other stuff to talk about. So I think that just sums the club up that way we've been the last few years. So it's Gareth O'Brien. Good player for Salford, good all-hearted player. I mean, he had a good game for Leigh on Sunday, I thought. Tough kid. Always seems to get smashed around the head and get us back up. Alan Hunt, I think, scored 2 tries in that grand final against Leigh in 2003, didn't he? And he was a big part of us getting promoted that season. And I think Alan deserves an awful lot of credit for what he's done over the years at Salford regarding the academy. I think he did a tremendous job. in sort of around 2010, 11, 12, 13. He was caretaker coach for a while as well, wasn't he? And he brought some terrific players through. Sneedy, Theo Farsh, people like John Turner, Stefan Ratchford. They all come through that system there that Alan Hunt was in charge of, wasn't he? So very wise man, nice fella as well, Alan Hunt.
Yeah, I know as a player, he went through a journey at Salford as well. Didn't start too well. Fans got on his back. And I think it was against Wakefield, went 100 metres. And from that point on, he was brilliant. Went to Widnes, scored a try there to win the game. Went 80 metres against Warrington. Unfortunately, we went down, but still he was one of our star players. And then in the first division, scored a load of tries with the likes of Cliff Beverley. And scored a couple of tries, I think, in the grand final to send us up as well. And then I think he retired after that. So, what a journey he had in a Salford shirt.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I mean, if you follow Alan Hunt's career, particularly when he was at St Helens as well, and Great Britain international, playing the World Cup final, he's played in some massive games, hasn't he? A bit to tell you all about that. I had the fortune of spending 3 hours with him in a Costa Coffee a few years ago. I was writing an article about Alan Hunt for it was 40/20 magazine. I don't know whether they printed it actually, but it was a great interview to do with him. But we got thrown out of the Costa in the end. We've been in there that long, but he told me some real stories, and I recorded it on my phone, but I don't think I could send it to you because it was that long, the interview, because he just didn't stop talking. But you've met him loads of times, haven't you? And he's such a down-to-earth man, Alan Hunt. He'll just come up to you and start talking, and he remembers you. And he spoke to us a few weeks ago in the tunnel, didn't he, at Salford, and he was waiting for some interviews, and such a nice guy. So, yeah, I think he deserves a coaster.
Yeah. Andy Lancashire, he said Di Watkins and Gus Risman from the 60s backwards, Maurice Richards, Keith Fielding. He said it was very difficult to choose, like everyone else has said. Ian Blease in the 80s and Paul Shaw in the 80s. Mark Leigh in the 90s. Di Young or Andy Gregory in brackets. 2000 was Chris Charles and Paul Heighton. 2010s Jackson Hastings, Gaz O'Brien, and 2020s Brodie Croft and Mark Sneed.
Yeah, he named some other good ones there. So, it just shows you forget people, don't you? And
you do.
You think, oh, you'll hear him say that. Oh, I want him now. So, he got some good names there. Good names there, Andy. I saw Andy at the match on Sunday as well. He gave me a wave. Nice man.
Yeah, Paul Farber, Sam Panappa.
Yeah, Paul Farber. I mean, Mark Leigh. You just mentioned Andy mentioned Mark Leigh, and he's a really nice fella, Mark Leigh. What a legend of rugby league and Salford. I mean, for a man from St Helens, I think Salford are his first club, really, aren't they? He talks about us as his home, really, doesn't he, Salford? So, terrific stalwart for the club. Paul Farber as well. Great character, Paul Farber. I think, a bit of a double act with Mark Leigh if you ask him for stories and stuff like that. Sam Panappa, I think you ask players about Sam, very, very talented player. Been at Wigan, won a lot of trophies and that. And I still think he had a lot of flair when he came to Salford, didn't he? Top player, tough player as well.
Also, we haven't mentioned Gary Broadbent. Rock solid at the back for us.
He's a player I class as a cult hero at Salford.
Yeah.
Gary Broadbent. Really, really. I remember that sort of season. He was I remember when he signed, he scored a hat-trick against St Helens at home, 97. He was terrific. And I think he was only a kid then. He was only like 21, something like that. And then throughout that time of late 90s, early 2000s, we were crap. And Gary Broadbent was at the back, and it was like the Alamo. And he had the weirdest tackling technique going. Players would break through, and he'd just jump on them, wouldn't he? But he'd get them down. He'd just dive at them and get them down. Really brave man. And after he left Salford, I think he left after we got relegated. He went back to Whitehaven, didn't he? And had some really good years at Whitehaven as well. So, real cult hero, Gary Broadbent, and very, very tough player as well.
Yeah, never dropped a bomb, ever. Ball went up, caught it. Doesn't matter the way there was about 8 men jump on him. He always came up with a ball. And I always match my current fullback on how well they catch the ball to him.
I don't think Gary Broadbent was great defensively and a great tackler. I don't think he was probably great with the ball. He wasn't like a Gibbo where he'd run past people.
No.
He never really beat a man. But, he was more for his defensive. And like you said, he was safe as houses. Really was. And Ryan Briley's a bit like that now. He really is safe. He's probably a bit more attacking flair than Gary Broadbent. But, Gary, played, I think he played for England. I think he played in the mid-90s, late 90s there. So, another guy that's had a great career.
Yeah. So we've gone through a lot of names there. If you're listening to this podcast and you want, your opinion on it, put it on our Twitter. Tweet us at DITDSRD and give us your coaster contenders, and we'll see who comes out on the coaster at the end. Paul.
Yeah, I think that we should get the listeners should have a go now at this, and it's something we can talk about, because I suppose next week's show will be a bit quiet because we won't have a game to review. Will we have the Catalan to preview, so we can have 10 minutes talking about them. So get your what's it in and just remind us of players we've forgotten, from the archives. I think it's great that.
Yeah, another great show. Obviously, no game to preview, Paul, but obviously I want to give opportunity. I want to say thanks to our listeners who donated via the Ko-fi to allow us to produce this podcast and get the programs to produce this standard podcast, which we're used to doing now.
Yeah, that's right, and you've took it on me as well to let me get to bed early, haven't you? So we've done a quick one this week so I can get my head down so everyone's a winner. But no, I've enjoyed it, yeah. And as you said before, don't forget the GoFundMe page for Jamaica. I think that's a big thing as well. So, but yeah, I've enjoyed it, and next week we'll be looking forward to Catalan, won't we, as well? So exciting times.
Yeah, so big thanks to tuning this week's pop-up podcast. Abroad Parking fans on Facebook, Devil the Detail SRD, fans on Twitter at DITDSRD, and your fans on SoundCloud, iTunes, Radio Contact, Spotify, and YouTube. See you soon, Reds.